All right, so did some property stuff yesterday on the worksheet. So today is actually some more properties. The title in the book is Algebraic Reasoning. So some of those properties from yesterday will be a little bit more prevalent than others. But there's four properties of equality: add, subtract, multiply, and divide. So these are all algebra like properties that you've used a ton of times. So you just don't realize it. So the addition property of equality says if A equals B, then A plus C equals B plus C. So this is basically an equation, and you added the same thing to both sides. So if you had x plus 4 equals 10, well, the A part is the x plus 4, and the B part is the 10. Or I should change that to a minus 4. Well, I can add 4 to both sides. And I just use the addition property of equality. Okay, so all of them, we have subtraction. If you subtracted something from both sides, if you have multiply, if you multiply to both sides, divide, if you divide to both sides. Okay, so you've done those since probably 6th grade, 7th grade for sure. They just don't probably talk about it as a mathematical equality or a property. Okay. All right. The next one is a big one. We use this a lot. Substitution property. Excuse me. So if A equals B, then A can be substituted for B in any equation or expression. So if you know two things are equal, then you can replace one for the other in a different like equation. And nothing like changes because those two things are equal. It's like saying, if I have $20 bill and you have two $10 bills, we can switch one for the other, and we still have the same amount of money. If you go out to eat and you order something and it comes with French fries, and you say, "Can I have onion rings instead?" A lot of times you can just substitute it, one for the other. Doesn't add anything to the price. So that one is a big one, and I'll show you more tomorrow how to use that one. Today is just simply identifying, like you'll look at a problem and it'll say, what's this an example of? And then you would just say substitution property. I think technically that is the substitution. Let me double check. Property of equality. Yeah. I'm fine if you just put substitution. Okay, so some of your problems will be like algebra problems. And it will say solve the equation, justify each step. So basically, like, what are you doing to solve the problem? So the way that I would solve it is I would first add 3x to both sides. So to justify that step, I did the addition property of equality because I added something to both sides. And then the next step I would do is I would subtract 9. And that is the subtraction property of equality. And then I would divide by 7. And that is the division property of equality. Okay, so it's just really practice doing something like this. Is technically called a proof, and we're going to be learning and working on things called proofs in the next couple sections. And this is just kind of a what would be considered an algebraic proof, in that you have to justify your steps. So in a proof, you have to say this is true, and then you have to say how you know it. So you'll have some problems or equations to solve, and you're just writing down what you did. If you like distributed because it had parentheses, then you just put distributed property. And then the rest of the problems will be, it'll tell you a property to use. Substitution property, symmetric, distributed property, transitive property, reflexive property, stuff that we did yesterday. And it's just going to say, if you use reflexive property, then this equals blank, and then you have to fill in the blank. So you'll need to go back and review the reflexive, transitive, symmetric properties. They are in your book. Okay, so if you look back in the section, all the properties that you need to know and examples of them are in your book. There's a few charts on the different pages with examples of them. So if you don't want to go back and rewatch the whole video from yesterday, you should be good. Okay? All right, so all this is leading up to stuff that we're going to do tomorrow that I'm going to try to, it might be a longer video because the problems themselves do get a bit more challenging. So, all right, have a great rest of your day, guys, and we will talk to you tomorrow.